Okay, thank you. Yeah. So it's our 3 days session, demo session, 3 days demo session on Docker and Kubernetes. So I guess, yeah, I have here. So 3 day demo session. So let me go for day two. I'll have a continuation with this. Let's see. I didn't include some concepts here, which is nothing but Argo CD, namespace scheduling, RBAC storage, ELK stack. One more we have is Argo CD. Also, service account. Also, we'll just experiment with. I'm just elaborating my syllabus. We'll experiment with Prometheus as well. Monitoring tool. Sorry, just a moment. Let me just give an overview about what we had discussed on day one. So, yeah, I was giving you an overview about what are the contents or training methodology and the outcome, as well as why do we need to go for Docker and how the technology, our recent technology is all about, and what do you mean by DevOps. And also I had walked you through the some basic or overview about what do you mean by virtualization or containerization. Now today I'll be explaining in depth. Also, we have been through the syllabus. What and all we're gonna cover in our real-time classes. So now on day two, I'll be explaining you why do we, the day one, it was all about the syllabus, and you can have overview regarding that, as well as it has been mentioned in the link as well. So on day two, that is today, we'll be going, I'll be walking you through the architecture of Docker and Kubernetes, along with how come from on-prem we have moved to virtualization, what is the difference between hypervisor and virtualization, along with that, the containerization, and then we'll move for orchestration as well. So for this, I would like to, so today and tomorrow, it will be a sample demo session. That means, sorry, with respect to hands-on session. So tomorrow will be a day three and final day of our demo session. So if anybody is interested, they can just register for the classes. So we'll start our classes from Wednesday with the same timings. Okay. Today, I'll walk you through. First of all, so welcome on for the day two on Docker and Kubernetes. Next, why do we need to go for Docker and Kubernetes? So the first thing is, yes, obviously, right now, everyone are moving from on-prem to cloud, and obviously there is a demand for Docker and Kubernetes. I was also one of the people who have experienced the same thing, wherein they have asked for the role of a Kubernetes, and along with that, some DevOps tools like Jenkins. So most probably, the thing is, if anybody is interested, they'll be joining for DevOps. The complete versioning tool or the configuration tool, all the sets. But wherein, if someone might be aware of, or most of the people will be aware of the DevOps syllabus. DevOps excluding Docker and Kubernetes sometimes. So they'll be opting for this. So today I'll be explaining the architecture, or why do we need to go for Docker and Kubernetes. As I have told in the beginning, what is this Docker and Kubernetes is all about? Docker is for containerization, and Kubernetes, that is K8s, is for orchestration. That means for managing. Let's understand first of all, what do you mean by containerization and orchestration, so that we'll be knowing why do we need to go for Docker and Kubernetes, or why there is a concept of Docker and Kubernetes. So I'll walk. So I'm just pulling up my screen with respect to the PPT. Yeah. See, the thing here is, we do have, okay. Firstly, the concept of on-prem has come. I'll just take up. Yeah. Yeah. What is this hypervisor? Or we'll go for, as I've told you, it's all about on-prem. Then we have moved for virtualization and then containerization. Containerization. So what is this? First of all, hypervisor and virtualization is all about. See, there are basically two types of hypervisor. That is hardware, and that is type 1, and software, which is nothing but type 2. What is this exactly is about? See, basically earlier we didn't had any concept of cloud. Okay. From here only, I mean, the concept of cloud has come into picture after what? On-prem or virtualization. So nowadays, each and every, almost all the organizations are moving towards cloud. So earlier on-prem means everything was managed and handled by that particular individual organization. So they were responsible for all the data that are residing with them, and they were taking care of all the servers or storage, networking, with respect to the upfront cost or everything. That is with respect to on-prem, wherein they have their own dedicated established network. Everything will be from end to end. All the process will be taken care by the particular or individual organization. So then that mean by on-premises, which is nothing but on-prem. Then we'll be understanding with respect to virtualization. That is why I have taken this now. So as I have said, there are two types of hypervisor, that is type 1 and type 2, wherein in type 1, there won't be requirement or there is no requirement for any operating third party software or operating system. Okay, that is nothing but a type 1 hypervisor. I'll just note it down now. Yeah. So what happens with respect to type 1 is all about hardware itself. Hardware itself is an operating system, and it doesn't need any operating system to be installed. As you can see in this diagram, type 1, okay, does it require any operating system? Hope you all be aware. Hope you all are aware of something that basically in our laptop as well, we have a Hyper-V. That is, if you enable this, then automatically there will be a virtualization so that you can have, subsystem Linux or kind of. Okay, where you can use Linux in your base machine without even installing any kind of operating system. So that is nothing but with this hypervisor. That is hardware itself act as an operating system. So hardware itself act as an operating system, and it doesn't need any operating system maneto. You all might be aware that nowadays, I mean, in order to spin up a VMs, so we use Oracle VirtualBox or VMware Workstation Player, or even we go with ESXi. When we want to go with that, then we'll go for a complete ESXi. Or so that is what. So if you want to purely go into Linux, then we have to, there is something that KVM. Okay, kernel virtual manager, which has to be installed. So this is how with respect to, when it says in type 2, we have to install for operating system. That means it is a software dependent. So type 2 is a software dependent, and it needs dependent. So it needs to have an operating system to run. And example, it can be Oracle VB, that is nothing but a virtual box, or KVM, VMware Workstation Player. This is with respect to type 1 and type 2. So usually in production servers, I mean in real time, in production, not in development, but in production servers, that is software hypervisor, which is nothing but they'll be installing this KMU, as I said, or KVM. That is what they're, actually moving towards it. That is called as, that is what a software hypervisor. And now what is this software and hardware hypervisor? I'll just note it down. So anything which you are running an OS, then installing a hypervisor is a software hypervisor. So then anything which you are directly installing a hypervisor is a hardware. So this is nothing but software and a hardware hypervisor. Let me just, which is nothing but in type 1, hardware hypervisor means there won't be requirement of any third party operating system. Okay. So next we'll move for, before that, yes, I'll just explain. Already we had this, right? We can go for installing the third party operating, software. Then we can just launch our operating system based on, in the middle, we'll be having another host operating system. Upon that, the hypervisor, then our guest operating system like Linux or Windows or Ubuntu or Mac. We already had this approach of virtualization, that is hypervisor and virtualization. Then why did we move to containerization actually? Why there is a need of containerization? Now we'll come into the picture. Why containerization? Containerization. That is from bare metal server to containerization. Why do we need this is, see in this diagram, we have a physical hardware and on top of that, we'll be spinning up VMs. Let's take that. Okay, we'll be spinning up our VMs. So what happens is, right now my laptop is 8 GB. Okay, it is 8 GB laptop. And let's take that when I want to spin up a VM, obviously I have to give 4 GB for that particular hypervisor. The extra hypervisor. Then among that 4 GB, I want to launch 2 VMs. So 2 GB for each. What will happen if one VM, that is, if only one instance or one virtual machine, if that takes all the resources due to some spike, what happens with the another VM? The resource will be less or it will become not sufficient. It will be insufficient. But what if I need to increase, because I have to manage the load, right? Then in that case, what I have to do? I have to shut down, then I have to increase manually, and then only I can start. So it is something, but whenever there is a request, I have to increase. And whenever there is no demand, I have to decrease, which is manually. And it is a continuous process and we have to allocate and deallocate the resources. This is with nothing but virtualization. That is why we have moved towards the concept of containerization, wherein it is nothing but automatic. For example, let's say we all aware of Flipkart Big Billion Days or Amazon Big Billion Days, wherein in the normal days, yes, people would go for shopping. I mean, they'll just even do the window shopping, or they'll literally do the shopping. So in that case, what happens? The demand will be normal or lesser compared to festival times, or in the duration of big billion days announcement or something. So what happens is that during that time, automatically there is a concept of like load balancer and auto scaling, wherein when the number of users hit that particular URL and the request would be spiked up, automatically the servers which has to be handled will be increased. Okay. It is not that something they'll be sitting in the back end and they'll do some coding manually, they'll push the servers, or they'll push it in such a way that to handle the load. No, that is not the way. So what happens in a normal days? Obviously, when the users count or hitting that particular URL or website would decrease automatically because of auto scaling, the load would be reduced. This is with respect to load balancing and auto scaling concept, which happens in the background algorithm. I mean, the algorithm which happens in the background. So this is why we do need to go for containerization, which is nothing but automatic. If they want to increase, they'll just make it in such a way that, hey, I mean, just automatically increase once the target hits for 100 requests or 200 requests. Okay, this is why we have moved from the concept of virtualization towards the containerization. And in virtualization, yes, obviously we can go. Yes, we know that we have to download an OSI image. Let me search for CentOS. I already have one. CentOS. No, this. Yeah, see here, it's almost near to 1 GB. So just think, I have my Oracle Virtual Box being installed. Upon that, I also have an OSI image. But in order to install, it will take almost an hour. And I can spin up only one VM or two VMs maximum. And if I don't want the CentOS, again, I have to delete this, and which will again take a it's a time consuming process. And again, it just goes on. But in containerization, it is not that way. It is very simple and easier to access. And it will take only 30 seconds to deploy a virtual machine, but in terms of containers. Hope you all know. Container means there will be like a box. Control N, which is nothing but it will be in this way. As we all know about the container. So there will be a ship which carries a container. So inside the container, we will be spinning up our VMs. I mean, applications will be deployed inside the container. Okay. So this is about, overview of why do we need containerization? Why do we have to go for container? Now let's go for some Docker components or the architecture of Docker components. What it is about. See, I'll just show you this. Where's the PPT? Yeah, in hypervisor, this is the way. But in containerization, I'll just write up here. In Control N, don't save. We'll be having the similar one. That is infrastructure. That is your hardware will be there. On top of that, host operating system. And on top of that, there will be Docker. And on top of that, we'll have multiple applications. Web application, web server, on Nginx or Python related, and many more. So it will be your infra. Then you will be having your host OS, that is host operating system. Then we'll have our Docker here. So in this PPT, what we have here? We have hypervisor. But here we'll have Docker. Then these are all application 1. Then we'll have it here, application 2. And 4. Okay, so this is with respect to containerization. Now, let's go for the Docker components. See, first of all, as you can see this image, see, this is a ship carrying the containers. Similarly, this ship might be our AWS instance. So we'll be creating on that particular instance, we'll be creating a containers. So Docker will take care of it. It's not that when it comes to container, we have only Docker, and when it comes to orchestration, there is only the concept of Kubernetes. But you all might be aware. If somebody says, and nowadays everyone are using Docker and Kubernetes, even though there is a concept of Docker Swarm for orchestration, it is not widely accepted or widely used because of its minimal features. Because of the popularity or the most features availability, everyone are going with Kubernetes because of its wide features availability. Okay, so now let me take you up for this. So what is this Docker components is all about? First of all, when a user requests for creating a container, actually, example from my end, what happens is, first we'll be having, this is our client. Client means ourselves. Okay, so then the Docker host, that is how the process will happen. And then the registry. Registry is nothing but from where we actually pull up the images or something is all about. From wherever we pull up the image is from this Docker Hub website, which is a public repository, wherein it is having n number of images. So if you go for Python, you can go for Python. And if you want to go for anything, how much ever it is. So for an example, I'll just give it here. I do need for Apache server. Then if I give Apache, then I'll be getting images with respect to the users who have who also have published some images. But if you want to go for official images, then you can just give that. Then they'll give the tag. So we can create a container based on that. So tomorrow we will experiment or have a hands-on session, simple hands-on session upon how do we create a container, how do we delete the container, and some basics example. Okay. So registry means we'll be using Docker Hub and Docker host, where the process will happen. Now let me take you, first of all, what is, Docker architecture, how it happens. Architecture. Yeah. First of all, we will issue the command. Okay. That is nothing but CLI. That is command line interface. So Docker CLI for executing the commands. Me being an end user, I'll be executing the commands like, hey, Docker run means to create. Hey, Docker stop. Stop means to stop. Then what happens? Okay. Then it will pass through it will pass through the REST API or payload. Okay. See, first of all, whenever I say Docker build, Docker pull, Docker run, these are the commands which will be issued from my end. So when I give this command, that is Docker CLI for executing the commands, we all know that, okay, it will create the container. But what happens in the background? Because one has to be aware of the process, right? In the background, how exactly a computer will, or the machine or the instance will understand whenever a user will push a command called Docker build. This is for a compose, and Docker pull to pull an image from the registry. And what is this Docker run is for creating. So when I give that, how exactly it happens, when I issue the command, it will pass through the REST API or the payload. You know already that application programming interface, that is API calls, which is used for calling. To invoke an action, correct? So then the daemon, where is daemon here? It is a background process, okay? Whenever you send, there is a background process called daemon. So daemon will receive the instructions. Okay. So when a user push a command, whenever he submits the command, the Docker daemon will receive the instruction. Then what happens is it will call container D. So daemon in turn calls container D. So what is this container D? Which is a process. So to create to create the container. See, Docker daemon will say, hey, I have received the instruction to create the container. That is why this daemon will call the container D. And how it will call? How this daemon will call container D? So here daemon uses gRPC call. That is remote procedure calls. Okay. It will use in terms of remote procedure call. Then what container will do? Will it gonna be create the container immediately? No. Container D creates a OCI bundle, which is nothing but which includes the dependencies. Okay. OCI bundle, which is from the Docker image. From Docker image. From where I'll get the Docker image? Tell me. See, this Docker daemon will call container D. So container D will create a OCI bundle. That is, it pull up the image from registry. As you can see, it will go here. It will get the image. Then it will create a OCI bundle, means all the binaries and dependencies. Then after getting the OCI bundle, it will tell, container D will tell run C, that is run command, to create a container. Here the container will be created. As per our understanding, means just to tell, just to, on a, just like a, just for an overview or an upper side, we'll think, okay, I have issued the command. So I'll get the image from Docker registry. So the container will be created. Okay, that's one thing. But in depth, it is something but once we issue the command, it will go for Docker daemon. Like what? Yeah, through API, daemon will receive the instructions. Then what daemon will do? It will call the container D. And this container D will create a OCI bundle from the image. Image will be pulled up from Docker registry, that is Docker Hub. And then what it will do, not container D is gonna create, it will call or it will tell run C to create a container. So what run C will do? This run C will interface with OS kernel, that is operating system kernel, and gets the constructs needed to create a container. So when it will tell container D will tell run C will interface with the kernel and it will get the constructs, means it can be with respect to a names, namespace, groups, etc. For example, in order to create the container, what and all it is required, prerequisites. So it will get the constructs by interfacing with the OS kernel. And then what happens is container process starts as a child process, that is P1, process 1, child process. So then what happens is run C exits once the container starts and the container comes to running state. Container is in running state. So this is how the process happens in background. So whenever user, pulls a command or executes the command, it is not that it will be going directly. Rather, the first thing is it will go for Docker daemon. Docker daemon will tell container D. So in turn, what this container D will do is it will create a OCI bundle from the image, and how it will pull up the images from the Docker registry, that is Docker Hub. And from that, it will tell run C to create the container. Then what run C will do is it will interface with the kernel and it will get the construct, that is nothing but a names, namespaces, groups, etc. to create a container. Then the container process will be, it will be started as a child process, that is P1, process 1. So once, it is not that it will take at least 2 to 3 or 3 to 5 seconds to come into the running state. It will just get everything done. And once it is done, run C will exit. Then user will get a container which is ready. So this is what the architecture of this Docker. Okay. And I would also like to draw one more diagram. Control N, don't save. Yeah, this one. 1, 2, 3. Other one is nothing but this. Okay, and we'll be having use this, this, this. This is also an architecture of Docker in another way. Okay. So what exactly happens is first it will sit daemon, then the REST API. Here will come our client or Docker CI. It's an another view, client or Docker CLI. Yeah. And here what happens is a user will issue the command for container creation, and user also issue the command like, hey, store an image or pull the image. Yes, we will also do that tomorrow. And then how do we make it as persistent? Using a concept called as data volume. And also we will create our own networks to make in such a way that what if we both are in an organization, so that if it is an XYZ organization, only that like instances or computers should communicate to each other, and rest of the network should not be able to reach. In that case, we will be going with networks. Okay. Yes. So this is another overview of Docker architecture, wherein both are same. Here it is very simple that user will issue the command for container creation or pulling the image or network creation or volume concept and many more things. What happens is firstly, we'll be using the CLI, that is command line interface. Then it will use REST API. Then, the Docker will use, then only we'll go for this Docker daemon, we'll be using it. Okay, this daemon will be receiving the instruction. This is a, minor version of architecture. For this, we have completed with the Docker architecture. Now, if you have any questions, you can just, ask me, because I have just hided the, meeting controls. So please do let me know. I'll just give a 20 seconds gap. Then I'll start with Kubernetes architecture. And wherein in terms of virtualization, it will take almost, as I said, 1 hour. You can all just try, wherein in order to create a only single virtual machine. But when it comes to this, that is nothing but a containerization, it won't even take that much of time.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yeah, yes.
Ma'am, what are the prerequisites of this course? Is AWS or any other cloud required?
Okay, sorry, I didn't see the chat. Let me see. What are the prerequisites? How should I get a recording? Recording for, okay, they'll be uploading the recording of this demo session in our YouTube channel as well. But for everyday classes, we'll be having, sorry, I'll come to your question. I guess someone have attended for today. The training methodology will be in such a way that you will get a recording every day. You'll have a Google link being shared. You'll be having the access, drive access. Okay, you'll get the notes prepared from my end as well. Sample I can show you. Where is my Docker and Kubernetes? Yeah. See, similar to this, you will have all the recordings being uploaded every day on a day-to-day basis. And these are the notes prepared from my end. So like Docker notes, dedicated only for Docker. Word notes, Word, okay, in terms of Word, Excel, sorry, Word. And here, the concept wise, along with the code as well, the manifest which are required. So this is a sample one. And now let me come to your question. You have asked for what are the prerequisites in order to do with this, right? Actually, it is well and good if you are aware of, a basic cloud is required. As this is only Docker and Kubernetes, what I would recommend is It is good if you are aware of AWS. If you are aware of actually what and all it is required, I'll be covering the same thing. Like on day one, I'll not immediately start with Docker and Kubernetes. Rather, I'll just give an overview about what is cloud, basics of cloud. Okay. It is well and good if you are aware of Linux, some Linux commands and AWS, because we have separate means I'm the one who is taking separate courses only for this Docker and Kubernetes, or only for AWS, and only for DevOps, or AWS plus DevOps. That is what I'm handling actually. Okay.
Is there any specific service of AWS that you want us to go through, ma'am?
No, not no. Whatever it is required for this, I'll be guiding you all.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Because see, in AWS, what we'll be doing it right, we'll be creating an account. After that, we'll be spinning up the VMs. That's it. So whatever the rest we will be doing, like Docker creation command, like Docker run. So everything will be thought by me. I just said it is well and good so that you will be, like you'll be able to grasp earlier. I mean, in a better way. Apart from that, it is not a requirement, but usually what I would suggest is it is well and good if you are aware of some Linux and some something about some basics concepts of cloud and network. That's it. That is why I have mentioned I have dedicated courses or separate courses I'm handling right now. Or there are few people who have opted for AWS plus DevOps. So then what happens is in AWS I'm teaching complete what should I say? I mean, 35 to 40 services, all the 35 to 40 services I'm teaching them. Post that, I'll be taking up DevOps. That is all Git, GitHub, Jenkins, Terraform. So everything. So that is how the syllabus is. If you are interested, once I start with AWS demo, so you all will be notified, or the same will be uploaded in YouTube as well. You can go through that and you can also join for that. Is it possible to have Azure cloud knowledge? This is only for AWS. Okay, hi, this is my first demo. Is it possible to give a quick first demo? Okay, for Azure, that's separate. This is only for right now. This is only for AWS and DevOps. After this course, we can apply for interview. Yes, obviously. Yes, and someone have asked for a day one quick overview. I'll just take it up once I finish the Kubernetes architecture. And please join tomorrow as well. I'll again guide you through the syllabus. Okay. Because tomorrow I'll be having a hands-on session. So along with that, we'll again go through the syllabus. But once I finish this Kubernetes architecture, I'll walk you through the day one concept. Day one concept is nothing much. It's all about like introduction about myself. And then I have explained about the training methodology. Like I'll be taking up the classes for 1 hour to 1.5 hours. Then we'll be uploading the recording every day. And the notes or the course content or notes will be shared from my end. Then why do we need this Docker and Kubernetes? Already have explained. So what is this orchestration tool? That is Kubernetes means. I mean, Docker we have understood until now. So what is this Kubernetes orchestration means? Have you all might have heard the terminology of orchestra. Hey, there is an orchestra going on. What do you mean by orchestra? There will be a huge stage with huge people where they will just play some music or dance or something. Correct. And the person who will manage this orchestra event is called as orchestrator. Obviously, right? Orchestrator means who is the one who will manage or take care of the entire event. So then orchestration means it's a complete management. Orchestrator means a person who is managing. Orchestration means it is an automated one which will be automatically handled. Means it will take care of everything via automation. That is nothing but a Kubernetes. Then we have been through a glimpse of, an overview about what is DevOps or what are the tools that will come under the DevOps. So we had come across some source code management tools or build tool or scanning tool, then the integration, then what and all it is. Then we have also understood. So in that we'll be going only with Docker and Docker and Kubernetes, which is nothing but containerization and orchestration tool. And then I have been through the syllabus. That is in Docker, what and all syllabus I'm gonna cover. That is image or repository or how do we write from the scratch with respect to a Docker file. And added on, someone have asked, right, what about the resume? So in resume, see, everyone will go for this Docker Hub, which is a public repository where anybody can log in and access and download the image. But here, apart from this, I'll also explaining you about private repository, which is an added one. You all can just include in your resume that you can also say, I have also experience with private repository wherein using Harbor. You can also say that, so you will have experience with private registry as well as public registry, and you will be aware of complete Docker concept. Once you're done with that, what are all the Kubernetes we have is, it's about a complete managing. How do we have a replica set, or how do we, what is with respect to deployment, stateful set, daemon set, or then the services. This is what I'll be explaining now. So like, see the architecture, what it is showing, it's not in depth, but I'll be explaining. I'll try to cover as much as possible. And then the rest of the components. When we say Kubernetes, it is not only a minimal, but it is having huge components. So we'll go through all the components. And one more advantage is that, like, what do I say? It's not that we'll be taking longer schedules. Rather, I'll also share you the YAML files whenever I have done. So you can go through and you all can practice. So it will be helpful. Because in interview, the most thing they'll be asking is, nowadays the market is open. Yes, it started from May last week. Or now currently the market is open and everything is on cloud. And it's good. And the most thing that I have asked in interview is for persistent volume claims, Argo CD, then this concept, advanced scheduling, then props and site almost everything is important. Okay, once you are learned about this workload components, then only we can be able to understand which services and scheduling or whatever it is. Okay, this is with respect to the syllabus. And again, I'll be guiding you or sharing the syllabus tomorrow. Now, I just want to, okay, if that's done, shall I proceed further with explaining of architecture?
Hey, Hanika,
Hi,
hi,
ma'am.
this is Mahesh. I
Okay,
just want to understand that do we need in-depth knowledge on networking or only the basics we need actually?
so you mean to say, like, you have, even though you have zero knowledge on Docker and Kubernetes, I'm guiding you from scratch.
No, in terms of networking concepts,
Network.
do we need, yeah,
In networking, all you have to understand is what on day one, I'll teach you what is public, what is private network. And when I create a network in Docker, actually, okay, how exactly the containers inside that will communicate. Because you all might be aware of IPs, right? The only prerequisite is IP. So
oh,
you'll know about, yeah, like how do we assign an IP, or how do the pod or our machine gets the IP assigned? Is it a constant or is it changing?
okay.
Okay,
I mean,
only that stuff.
does it need to, does we need to go to the CCNA course for this,
Nothing,
the prerequisite? Nothing, right?
nothing,
Oh, okay,
nothing.
okay,
That is why I
okay,
mentioned this
thank
is not networking. This is a Docker network where I'll only tell you how do we create our own network in using Docker, and how the containers will communicate to each other. For example, let's take in our college or in our organizations, we'll be having a lab, wherein we are able to communicate only with our peers or neighbors or colleagues if we are under the
you.
same net, correct? But if you moved outside
Yes,
the organization, you will not be able to connect. How? Because of networking. They have established in networking in such a way that if the IPs fall under, for example, right now your organization is holding an IP. Let's take an example of 10.554.211.68. Let's take your organization is having this IP. They have configured the network in such a way that if it is managing almost 10,000 of employees, okay, let's take 10,000 employees, then it will it almost go for 20,000 of IPs, means via subnets. So if your IPs fall under only this category, that whatever they have defined the subnet, for example, the CIDR block with respect to /16, then they will be having, it will also have 255, and it will also have 255. That is, these two will be, what do you say? Only these two will be constant, and it will be with something with 32 minus 16 is how much? So 16. So 2 to the power of 16.
16.
Yes. So 2 to the power of 16 IPs will be there. So on an average, what is mean by 2 to the power of 16 is 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 100, 256, 512, 1024, 2048. Then how much I say? 2048, 5000 something. That is for 12. So it will almost cross 10,000, correct?
Yeah.
To the power 16. So this
Sir,
is
do
how
you,
yeah, sign.
ma'am, do you need to have the idea about knowledge about that subnet and all the things, ma'am? If you
No,
want to
no,
learn the
nothing here. No, nothing. Here we
yeah,
are
that
not
is
gonna create any sub. I just gave an overview that how exactly in an organization we are able to connect. But once you move out of your organization, why are you not able to connect? It's all because of
okay.
IP configuration. That's it. But no need to be. I mean, it's not required to know all that in depth. But in Linux, we will be having that networking concept, na, where we will go in depth about CIDR, classless I mean interdomain. That is what when usually we have actually we have a counseling session wherein we'll understand the requirement of a student or an working professional. I heard that most of the times they are part of some backend developer or some they are with the tester something. So now they want to move forward or migrating towards cloud. That's why they want to learn this AWS and DevOps. In that case, they'll usually ask me, is there any prerequisite for the same or do I need to learn anything? But I want to know from basics. Usually there will be, people with multiple opinion or multiple view. They want to learn. So in that cases, I'll be, proposing my solution in such a way that if they want to know or understand about the complete, then it's something, the process would go in such a way that AWS, DevOps, first it will come for Linux actually. 1 minute. First, it will come for Linux, then AWS. This is how even I was being trained. Then DevOps. So this DevOps itself comprises of Docker and Kubernetes. So if we are learn this, then we'll understand all the networking, all the commands. I mean, it's just like, the outcome is full and full. No doubts no doubts or nothing will be there. That's it. This is a complete package. Even
ma'am, I saw one more topic like port forwarding. What is that port forwarding, ma'am?
in Docker, right?
No, you have not mentioned in your curriculum, but I saw in the site, in the Durgasoft site, I saw that is the port forwarding, like that one of the concept.
Yeah, yes. Port forwarding is nothing but, see, we'll be exposing our application inside the container. Wait, I'll say, let me go for a new page. Yeah. See, first we'll be creating our container, base machine container application. Okay. So right now, let's say this is our application.
Okay.
But inside, upon the Docker, upon the container only, we'll be, inside the container, we'll be having our application, okay? Inside our container. And this will be our instance. Instance or virtual machine, okay?
Okay.
Virtual machine that is using AWS.
Yeah.
We'll pick up the VM, okay? So, you are very well aware that for this instance also, we are having an IP. We'll get an IP. And if you install the web server on that, we'll be able to access it from our web page. Correct. But after creating the container, this container will have a separate IP dedicated for the same. And this application will receive the IP only from that particular container. So in order to reach, user will try to reach the container, that is application, but he can reach only till the instance level, but not inside the container or the application. That is why we do port mapping, that is exposing the port, that is 8080:8080. That is -P means exposing the port, that is port mapping.
Okay.
8080:8080 means that for web server, usually for HTTP or Nginx, it is 80. So 80:80 means it's a network port and the host port.
Okay. Okay.
Container port and the network port.
Okay. If the 80 container port 80 is not available, then we can give to 81 to the
Suppose
80 like
let's
that.
take for MySQL, that it is something 4,000 or 5,500 and something, correct? For MySQL or PostgreSQL.
Yeah.
In that case, what you will do, you will put that IP, means first it will be like a colon here. So this is your external mapping. For example, you want it in 1990, yeah, you can go for 1990. See, you can go for,
Okay.
I want to expose my application in 1990, but my Postgres SQL is, let's take 5526 or something. Or what if it is 80? With respect to my HTTP or Nginx, it is 8. This is port mapping or port forwarding.
Okay.
We are
Got it.
forwarding or we are mapping.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Yeah, no
Oh,
problem.
hello. Yeah, hi, ma'am.
Yeah, hi.
So, I have a query I have seen there. So, in
Mhm.
Kubernetes, that's I want to understand. So,
Mhm.
how much person we are going to cover as part of, EKS particular? And, how much differentiate, normal Kubernetes to EKS, all those things? Because I want to know, because, I'm looking for more into EKS. So, is there any much difference in, EKS? I know is a managed services, right?
Mhm.
So Kubernetes is a standalone services where we need to install, master as well as a control plane
Worker
as
node.
well as worker node. So in terms of EKS, how much we need to cover here, and what is the difference if I understand, Kubernetes standalone, it will, I know it will, helpful and useful to EKS also, but EKS is completely is provided by AWS, right? So in that terminology, right, ingress or load balancer and whatever it may be. So that I want to understand more on into that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it from my side.
Okay. 1 minute. I don't know where that actually been. Workload. First. Workload. No, not this one. I wanted to show an architecture diagram, which I'm not finding it.
Mhm.
Where exactly is that day one? Complete intro and overview. This is for AWS. This is for Linux. Just a moment. I show a
Okay.
thing. I guess I have missed that PPT actually. Okay. See,
Okay.
what I would say is, so I've asked me with comparison with respect to the EKs, right? In
Yeah.
order to manage that or in order to work on that, first of all, we have to be aware of what exactly the components will do. Correct.
Mhm.
So when I say
Yes.
in Kubernetes, let me go from here. Okay, I'll be taking up the architecture of Kubernetes tomorrow, and we will also go with an experimentation with Docker because Kubernetes is totally a cluster. So first of all, we'll be creating our cluster from ourselves. That is our own cluster using KubeADM as well, and then QoPS. But KubeADM is only for one time, but for the entire rest of the concept, we'll be going with QoPS. See, that AKS or EK, I mean, that EK is something with respect to only management. But before that, we have to be aware of container creation and stuffs, right? Then only we'll be able to manage. If you didn't even create anything with respect to image or containerization, then we'll not be able to understand what is this pods, or because in order to create the pod, it is just a labeling of the container. Okay. On this container, there is a wrapper, a safety wrapper. That is nothing but pod. So inside the pod there will be a container. So inside the container there will be an application. So in order to understand that, first we have to be understandable, or we have to understand what is container and how to create the container. That is why Docker is needed. But this Kubernetes is all about just managing, that's it. So what is this pod? We'll understand how to create a pod and how do we get the manifest file, because everything will go with generating a manifest file. And if you're gonna ask me, I already have like a number of manifest file for each of the concepts. For example, if it comes with respect to pods, or how do we create a pod, or basic Kubernetes network, you can see here cluster IP YAML file along with the service YAML files and many more stuff. Then once you create the pods, that is after the container, then only we'll go with replica set for with respect to high availability. Then we'll go for deployment. Why do we need a deployment or a stateful set? Once we aware of this, by understanding standalone Kubernetes here, it is easier to understand the EKS, because in EKS, everything is, Amazon Web Services, that cloud provider will manage everything for you. So you'll not be knowing in the backend what's going to happen or what's going to be the code. You agree? But here we will be doing it from our end, from the scratch. Like we'll have our own manifest file. We'll also understand how do we create, using the file, how do we generate the file. Okay, in EKS, you will just need to go in console mode. That is, next, create something. But here we'll be doing it like end to end from the scratch. So that we'll be able to understand upon completing this Kubernetes, we'll be knowing like how exactly from the backend, how exactly it works, or how do we create the cluster. So, and one more thing is that every day I'll be deleting the cluster after the end of the session.
Yeah, due to
So
cost.
every day I'll be creating, and it will take only 5 minutes to create the entire cluster, wherein I'll be purchasing my own domain as well. And you all know that in Route 53, Amazon Route 53, it is very easier that they have made the features very simple in such a way that if you just go and click on that Route 53, and it will give you two options. Either you already have your domain purchase, or you want to get it from here. So that is also one way. But if you have bought it from using a Big Rock or GoDaddy or something, where you can just go there and create a hosted zone, then the records. So we'll understand all such things. So it will be comprised with everything. Once we were what I say is, instead of opting for some infrastructure with respect to a cloud provider where they will provide you all the services, but all you have to do is managing. Yes, that is also best way. But before moving towards that, we have to understand the architecture, or completely like what exactly mean, or what is this mean by load balancer, how exactly it is working. Okay, if you just attach the load balancer in AWS, it will take care of everything for you. But in the background, you have to understand, right, how exactly the code works. I'll also show you how exactly how to generate the manifest file, and you don't need to be the coder. You don't need to have any knowledge or single knowledge about, single line knowledge about the coding or YAML script. We'll be guiding everything here. That is why from the scratch, once we are aware, then it's very easy to go with this EKS.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for the, service. So one more topic. Is that throughout this course, we are going to use AWS as a cloud
Yes.
provider?
For instance, because I need to spin up the VM, right? On the VM, upon the VM only, I'll be creating the cluster. I'll be creating the containers.
Okay, so we are not going to use our local laptop,
No,
to install
because
everything, right?
okay. In that cases, is our laptop is able to, dedicated only for this? Like, you should not have any other files or something wherein you have to go with something like, okay, let's take our CPU is 8 GB. If you want to install, then it will take a much time. That is why I said, why are we moving towards the cloud? It will take only, yes, you can have Docker desktop. In Kubernetes, you have to have your own, what do you say? If you have your own Linux own Linux system, so then no need to go for cloud. Yes, it is well and good, but sometimes it might be, time consuming process as well.
I know that's true. That's true. Actually, a cloud provider there is a good service that is rather than our using local system. That's true. That's true. Now this time I'm just clarifying. Okay.
Yeah. You can also go for the both, but right now I'm in my Windows. I don't want to go for Linux. I don't want to have entire Linux system, and it is also only supporting for 8 GB. 8 GB of RAM.
Yeah.
Wherein I have to dedicate almost 4 GB of RAM for this complete architecture, but I don't want to do that. So that is why I'll have single virtual machine. Upon that only I'll be creating the node. The complete cluster, Kubernetes cluster.
Yeah, and can you use like a Docker desktop app for this? Like
Yes, you can use Docker
locally?
desktop on your local machine. You can go for Docker desktop, and you can. The only thing is that the commands will be a bit changing. That's it.
Oh, okay.
I'll not be using Docker desktop. As I said, I'll always go with this instance level. So if I delete the instance, everything will be deleted.
So
Because
where should we do the practice with the help of your explanation
AWS.
or like no?
AWS
So
only.
we are going to create the account.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I'll guide you to create the account. I'll share the video as well. Post that, and it will not be chargeable. It's a free tier account for entire year. But the only condition is every day after using the service, you have to kill the service and stop the instances. I'll guide you through each and every step by end of the classes as well.
Hi, ma'am. Good morning.
Still, when we are using Kubernetes, it will be chargeable. You all are aware of it already. So in that cases, no need to worry. Upon completing this, they'll be saying, hey, you have this much of amount to be paid or something. Wherein, if we just ask for a waive off, we no need to pay anything. It's a free tire account. Only 2 rupees will be debited upon creating this AWS account, and post 48 hours, we will be refunding the 2 rupees as well. Amazon will be refunding you.
Okay, thank you.
And,
And what are the services like we are going to use on the AWS? Basically?
Sorry, in AWS, we're not going to learn anything. The only thing is launching or spinning up the VM. That's it. Because this is only for Docker and Kubernetes. And if it is for AWS, then I have separate course for that, wherein the complete 35 to 40 services for the same. This is only for Docker and Kubernetes. I'll be showing only with respect to, we are using AWS only for launching the instance. That's it.
Ma'am, are you using Mac machine or Window machine? For
No, Ubuntu or Linux. Ubuntu based. You know, where you are very well aware that Linux and Ubuntu both are same, but only the flavors are different, correct?
Okay.
It's all flavors. That's it.
Okay. And in CI/CD perspective, are you doing anything in that Kubernetes for deployment and all?
I'll be using GitHub Actions when I go for Argo CD.
Okay.
Wherein if I make any changes in my GitHub, like I'll be having my file locally, I'll push it into GitHub. So with the respect to the concept of Argo CD, which is nothing but GitHub Actions, like whenever you do, automatically it has to do something.
Means we are deploying anything when we learn Kubernetes and exposing this to browser?
Yes,
That
obviously,
part-
yes.
Okay.
Obviously, yes. That is why we'll be using deployments and this external services like cluster IP, how we will explain, how we will expose your application via or access your application via node port.
Okay. And what and in AWS part, EKS part, we are covering also, right?
Not much, but only just, how are we managing it?
Okay.
Because everything, the complete Kubernetes will be covered in this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So any more questions?
Ma'am, are you installing or using the MinQB?
So KOPS and KubeADM. KubeADM, I'll just
KubeADM.
show. That is one more way. And then we'll go for KOPS, that is Kubernetes operations, which is nothing but we'll have a single master cluster or cluster.
Okay, got it.
One can also go with Minikube, but I'm not going to go with the Minikube actually.
Okay, ma'am. Thanks.
Okay, so any more questions you have?
And how many days the course will be there?
25 to 30.
It's Monday to Friday, right?
Yeah, sometimes because we are all, some are working professionals and sometimes the timing, I might not be. In that case, I'll take the makeup class, or if I want to, what if I just want to take, so weekdays, it is mandatory. In a week, it is 5 days classes. Or if someone, if you support me to take up in the weekends as well, I know I'm available to take on weekend as well. So I can take on weekends as well, but not every time. Suppose if I need any off in between, I'll be taking up as a makeup class.
Yeah, actually, ma'am, I'm waiting for this session. Actually, I'm getting in touch with Basab, but in weekend, ma'am, actually, I have different scenarios, different works are there for morning. If it is the second, then I'm okay for that.
Okay, do one thing, just, reach out to the institute, or if you have any timing constraint, we'll do one thing. Tomorrow we'll have a discussion regarding the same thing, because I have another batch starting now at 9 o'clock. I want to take a short break for that before starting that AWS batch, because I have batches running.
Okay.
So we'll do one thing. Yeah, we'll do one thing. Anyways, tomorrow I'll be covering this Kubernetes architecture. My plan was to cover today and to cover all your questions tomorrow. It's okay that we had some queries today. We'll also discuss some queries tomorrow. But before that, I'll be starting up with this Kubernetes architecture. So you will be understanding what exactly it is. Then we'll go with our queries. Okay, we'll have our hands-on demo session. Then we'll go with our queries, like what exactly, or if you have any timing constraints, or what and all possibilities that can be, or how it can be. Okay, then we'll also discuss what are your requirements,
Okay.
or how it can be taken forward. Sure. And please do join tomorrow. It will be our third day of our demo session, and it will be the final day. Post that, once you register for the classes, so from Wednesday, the link will be changed and our real-time classes would start. So please do join tomorrow and let me know all your queries with respect to any concerns or timing constraints, or if you again need to go through the syllabus, we'll just have one more session, like, we'll have our continuous session tomorrow.
Ma'am,
So
last question. It is friendly with Kubernetes administrator. Like after learning this, you can go for the Kubernetes administrator certification, right?
Yeah, yes,
Thank you.
the syllabus is just like that. Okay, so any more queries? If not, then we'll have our discussions tomorrow as well. Thank you all for joining. Have a great day ahead. Please do join tomorrow as well.